Welcome to Moving Through and Beyond, a podcast dedicated to sharing inspired journeys of redefining life, vision, and purpose after immense hardship and grief. My goal with this podcast is to give you hope and to let my guest journeys inspire you to make the choice to keep looking up. I'm your host, Carey Conley. Hi, everyone. This is Carey Conley, and welcome to this episode of Moving Through and Beyond. I get the great honor to bring very special people onto this show, and I'm bringing back somebody that I had on when I first started a year and a half ago. She was like my second guest, Rita Davenport. For those of you who don't know her, and if you don't know who she is, I don't know where you've been. She's celebrity, speaker, humorist, author, several books, was president of a company called Arbonne for over 20 years, which is how we met. And lovingly, a lot of people, a lot of amazing women call her Mama Rita. So I get the honor to have my Mama Rita here today.
Oh, it's good to be with you. Who was the first person then, if I was number two? I'm just wondering.
Yeah. You came in, actually, there was a gentleman before you that you don't know. He was the first one. And then there was Sharon Lecter, and you came with Sharon.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Always fun to be with her.
Yeah.
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 She's also a little sister. She really is. She's amazing. Yeah.
My other mama.
Yeah.
Well, I just love you so much for being here because I know how busy you are.
Oh, well, it's good to be here. And I feel guilty when I don't do things like this, Carey, because it's needed. People do need to hear positive information and, to lift them up and make them laugh. I teach with humor because the retention rate when you learn something while you're laughing is 700% greater than if you learn something when you're not laughing.
Right. Yeah. And in this world, we need a lot more of that.
Yeah. I have found out that what they remember is, when you gave my accolades, you forgot to say I was an exotic dancer, too. And I always like to say that because I really get a lot more attention when I say that.
Yeah. So this is the funny thing about Rita, is she is probably one of the funniest women on the planet.
No.
And I'll tell a funny story real quick. We went on a trip to Vegas a couple of months ago because she was getting an award, Woman of the Year. Sharon went with us, and you and I flew together. And she was telling everybody in Vegas that she was a stripper for the blind.
Yeah, that's right. I've upgraded. And I'm not if you want to get people's attention, you don't want to say, that you're a teacher or you're an entrepreneur. But when you say you're a stripper, I mean, do you really? This happened to me in Nashville when I was in a furniture store and I had an accident. I was going down some steps. I was with my sister who was on a walker, and my sister is very sensitive. She faints really easily. As I'm looking at the display in the furniture store, I stepped back and I caught my arms because I was falling and broke my arm in 3 places. When the paramedics got there, I'm laying on the floor. I have on a blazer. I'm dressed really nice, and my sister is over there scared to death, shaking. And the paramedics were asking me all these questions: your name, your age, your occupation. And I thought, why would they ask my occupation? I'm laying here on the floor with a broken arm. What difference does it make? So I looked at these nice all paramedics are good looking, by the way, especially when you need one. Anyway, I looked at them all and I said, now this was about 5-6 years ago, so I'm in a elderly zip code, and they said, what's your occupation? And I said, I'm an exotic dancer. And they all looked at each other. But Carey, within 7 minutes, 12 more paramedics rushed into the furniture store to see the exotic dancer on the floor. My sister is laughing, not fainting. She's shaking her walker. She's laughing so hard. Exotic dancer. I get into the ambulance, and the paramedic said, ma'am, would you like a shot of morphine? And I said, no, I've given birth. I can take pain. Don't worry about it. I'm fine. He says, ma'am, we're not supposed to ask personal questions, but where do you dance? And you were going to stick me with morphine, and you can't see any better than that. Lord, I'm glad I didn't get a shot. And I said, that was just a joke, son. And he was a little bit older paramedic too. But anyway, So keep humor in everything you can, possible. So
well, I'm going to talk about your book right now because I've reread this like 5 times. This is one of Rita's books called Funny Side Up, and it is a very enlightening, encouraging, funny book. So I highly recommend you get it because it also talks a lot. What I love about this book, Rita, is I learned a lot about your upbringing that I did not know. And I would love for you to share a little bit about that.
Well, I was raised in Tennessee, and I was always told not to get my hopes up. I asked my grandpa one time when I found out he had to go on, which was welfare, I said, I was just about 8 or 9 years old, where did you expect to end up? Because I was worried about him. And he said, I always thought I'd end up on old age assistance. And that made me realize right there that it was important what you expect, because what you expect, believe, and picture is what you're going to get out of life. No more and no less. And so when I was called the Hope Dealer by Success Magazine. They did a wonderful story. I wish I had the magazine with me. And they said that I raised people's hopes and expectation by my belief that if you want it bad enough, the world steps aside for the person that knows where they're going. You either lead, follow, or get out of the way. And so I like to raise people's expectation because it is just so true. What you expect, believe, and picture, you're going to get, no more, no less. And I expect, people used to say to me all the time, you're so different. I was raised in poverty, did not have inside plumbing, had to go out to the street to get water. I slept with my mom till I was 23 years old and married. I got married at 23, so I was a little bit later. My sister got married at 14, so a different world. But I was a little bit more cautious about, doing something like that. I had gone through college by that time. I was told not to go to college, Carey, by the teacher, the counselor at school, and she said, Rita, you're kind, you're sweet, you're nice looking, find some nice boy and get married. Don't think about going on to college because you're not college material. Sad part about that is that as ye believeth, and having somebody that's a counselor tell me that I wasn't college material, I believed her. So I had 2 jobs. I worked at Woolworths. I worked at National Life Insurance Company. By the way, I have to tell you this, I was a junior underwriter, and I had to read all the descriptions of people's illnesses, and I'm a card-carrying hypochondriac anyway, and I'm reading all this stuff, and I'd go to the doctor. I was only 18 years old. I'd go to the doctor all the time. I had this, wrong. So one time when I went and I had all these symptoms that I had been reading about as an insurance underwriter, this, and I told him all these symptoms, and I said, could I have prostate problems? And he said, little lady, let me tell you, you're never going to have a prostate problem. He says, now I'm an underwriter, and I'm asking a doctor if I could have prostate. It's kind of scary, actually. But anyway, always keep a sense of humor about anything. But I saved enough money living in poverty without inside plumbing or anything, and there was something I really wanted, Carey. I wanted a Corvette. And that's a phallic symbol, by the way. I was told that one. Developmental Approach in Human Sexuality at my classes at ASU. I found out that about 20 years later. But anyway, I wanted a Corvette, and I saved up enough money, and I thought, if I get a Corvette, where am I going to park it? You can't park a Corvette in front of a house. This has an outhouse. It had a cousin visit from Tennessee. From California to Tennessee. She'd never been in an outhouse. I took her to the outhouse. She said, how do you flush this? I went in the house. I said, Mama, she got mental problems. She just asked me how to flush the toilet, out in the yard. It was kind of funny. But anyway, I think being told that I wasn't college material motivated me to prove her wrong. And I graduated from college in 3 years with honors. I received a BS degree, which I'm demonstrating right now, I know. But she came to my graduation, and she even helped me get a little bitty tiny scholarship, and we stayed friends forever. I was also friends with her daughter. But I could have been mad at her, or I could have been inspired by her. I'm going to show you. So when someone tells you something negative like that, don't take that opinion. Go inside and ask yourself, what do you want bad enough? And what are you willing to give up to get it? Set your priorities and then go to work. Right. So all of us have greatness in us, but we can have people that put us down and make us feel like that we don't have that greatness. And I went within and go within and ask him, by the way, put these 3 fingers together when you're kind of meditating and asking questions. I got to interview a famous actor on my local television show. And when I interviewed him, I told him I was very nervous because at the beginning of the show, the camera's just on me. But when the camera's on 2 guests, I feel like the audience is looking at them. I don't get as nervous. And I said, it's when I'm alone that I get scared. And Eddie Bracken was his name. He was nominated for Academy Awards. He said, Rita, you've touched your pulse right here. You feel your pulse right there. And he said something so powerful, Carey. He said, that's the presence of God within all of us. You're never alone when you can feel that. So when you feel like you're alone, just touch right here, and then you realize, oh, I'm not alone. So it gives you a little bit more confidence and a kick in your giddy up. So I do that a lot. Before I go out to give a speech, I always say, okay, God, let's go do this, because I certainly can't do this by myself, and there's no way. Yep. But with you with me, and of course I can also give him a lot of the blame or the credit if it doesn't turn out good. But anyway, having faith is very important too.
I just love how you share that you took something that could have taken you down and changed it. Yeah. Because I really, I didn't really understand any of that, Rita, until I got involved in Arbonne, and you were the president of the company then, and started learning a lot about what you think about, you bring about.
Yeah, what you think about, you bring about.
Right. And it took me a long time to understand that.
Yeah, I write about that in the book a lot because that is an example of what you can do if you want it bad enough. But you got to want it. You got to be hungry. You got to have desire. Success starts with desire. And by the way, when I go through the steps of the goal setting, and I'm glad I'm able to chronicle that. I don't really think the title depicts what the book is about. I mean, it is a lot of humor in it. I got on an airplane a while ago, and there were two women reading my books, and I thought I was getting set up. I'm laughing. I'm getting videotaped, and they're laughing. And I go by and said, "Oh, is that a good book?" They said, "Yeah, you got to get this book." I said, "I know, I wrote it." And so I'm on a plane, and I got to entertain them for 3.5 hours. But when I go through and say, "Yes, I'm glad I was able to capture what you need to do to have more, to be more, to do more, to learn more, to earn more, so you can ultimately, as I said, earn more." And that's very important. I mean, money's not everything unless you don't have it. You know, money's not important unless you're broke. And I give out $2 bills to people, Carey, a lot because, can I tell about the Jolene story?
Absolutely.
Okay. In high school, I dated a guy named Carl Dean. I had known him since I was 9 years old. His dad was my Sunday school teacher. He was voted wittiest in our senior class, and we had a lot in common because of the humor. And I really thought the world of him. He was a great guy. His name was Carl Dean. But to be honest, Carl was a smoker, and I wasn't. And if you don't smoke, my mama smoked, and I didn't like smoking. And that was even before people knew how bad it was, but I knew how bad it was. Anyway, we broke up. And the first day that Dolly Parton came to town, she met Carl Dean. She was going to the laundromat with a bag of dirty clothes, and that's just like Carl Dean. He's so friendly. He pulled over, introduced himself, went and bought her an RC Cola, and they met that day, and they married. And so Dolly is amazing. I would say she's the number one female star in the world today. She really is. Well, she called to be on my local television show, and I said, "Oh, I think I can work you in. Let me see what I can do." I laughed about that because she was laughing that she was overweight at the time, and I said, "Well, I can laugh. She's kind of fat and I was poor, so that was a combination." But she's lost all that. Anyway, she invited me to come to her performance that night. And it was a fun show, too, when she was playing the guitar. And I said, "Let me see that guitar." And I grabbed the guitar. And I said, "Dolly, I never understood why guitars were cut out till I saw you grab one. But you need to have it cut out to get it close to your chest." But anyway, she said, "You just say anything, don't you?" Anyway, she was very enjoyable. Invited me to come backstage at the performance that night. And my daughter-in-law was with me. My husband had a commitment. He couldn't go. And she said, "Okay, crew, come over here. I want you to meet somebody really important." And I'm looking around because it's just me and my daughter-in-law backstage and the crew. And she said, "Y'all have always wondered who the real Jolene is, the real green-eyed Jolene." And they're all, yeah. And she said, "Well, this is it. This is Rita Davenport." And I'm going, "You have got to be kidding." My daughter-in-law's fingernails were smoking because she was texting all of her friends, "My mother-in-law is Jolene, according to Dolly Parton." And so we get out in front of the audience. She had me front row seats. And she said, "Okay, Phoenix, you've always wondered who the real Jolene is. Well, she's here, and her green eyes are right there in the front row." And she had me stand up. Well, 4 of my friends were in the audience, so I have witnesses that she said, "This is the real Jolene." And I was the only girl that I know of that Carl Dean ever dated. And I did tell Dolly, I said, "We dated, Dolly, but we never did anything." She said, "Oh, Rita, I know that." She said, "I was his first." And I said, "Oh, girl, you're so naive." I don't know anything about that. But anyway, they were 23 years old, too, so that's kind of funny. But I've had amazing experiences, Carey. I worked in broadcasting, and I got to interview Muhammad Ali and John Wayne and on and on. It's just amazing what I was able to learn from these people. So
well, and then give that back to the world in the way you've done, poured into so many people like me that needed it, right? Yeah. And we didn't talk about your broadcasting. I think it's again, the other reason I love this book is it takes us on a journey of how you got there and how you got here. Because you did not grow up, I'm thinking I'm going to be a TV broadcaster. No. It just kind of was a journey, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with your optimism
Yeah.
and your willingness to just serve people at a super high level, Rita.
Yeah. And I after college, I was a social worker, and I was a tough social worker because I was raised in poverty. And I would get support and funds and things, but I would explain to, usually it was, of course, the mother, that this has got to be used correctly. And the fact that I was in poverty myself, I could relate and talk about it. And after becoming a social worker, then I went to work as a teacher. I was a teacher for a couple of years, and then Arizona Public Service here in town, Phoenix College here, and then as in Arizona Public Service, I was asked to be a guest to talk about the use and care of appliances. My background was in home ec, and the viewership would ask for me to come back on, and then when the woman retired, I got that position. And I never really took it seriously. I look back now at the people that I got to meet that, Billy Graham. I mean, how many people get to interview Billy Graham?
Right.
And I was praying to God to forgive me for noticing how good-looking he was. He was really a good-looking man. I'm supposed to be thinking about spiritual stuff here, not how good-looking he is. But I asked him what amazed him most about life, and I'll never forget what he said. He said the brevity of it. And it goes so fast. And the closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. It's like a roll of toilet paper. So you have to, sometimes too late comes too soon. And so whatever it is that you've got on your plate that you want to take care of, be active and take care of it and make a difference. Because God is watching, and you want to give him a good show. And most of us can make a living, but to make a difference. Carey, one of the things that I love to teach people is that wherever I go, I find something nice to say about somebody, even if I have to make it up. I'll be honest. But the difference it makes, I was at Costco, and I said to a woman, that's the prettiest top. It was a pink top, and it was really attractive. And so I'm pushing my cart. She's pushing her cart. So she comes back over. She said, thank you for saying that. She said, you giving me that compliment made me feel so good. She said, because I'm in chemotherapy, and I don't feel good. And when you said something nice to me like that, I felt better. And I mean, how this has helped me, y'all just have no idea. I was getting ready. I had a direct flight to Salt Lake, nonstop. I had a speech that night and a speech that morning in Phoenix. And I thought, I never do that. But it was a nonstop. So I get to the airport, and the little lady behind the ticket counter, I commented on her earrings, and I said, who cut your hair? I love your haircut. I said, I just was visiting with her, and she said, you got a speech tonight? I said, yeah. I said, I hope there's no problem. I said, because I don't usually fly on the same day I speak. And I get on the plane, and we have mechanical problems. Now, if you have mechanical problems, you do want it when you're on the ground. That's the time to have them. So here comes the flight attendant, the ticket agent lady, and she said, don't you have carry-on luggage? There's two kinds of luggage, Carey. Carry-on
or lost.
Or lost. and I can tell you some stories about doing a speech in front of 22,000 people with lost luggage. And I had to go to Kmart to get my outfit to wear because I had travel clothes. Anyway, she said, get your bag. And I said, yeah, where are we going? She said, I have you another flight. It wasn't in the same carrier. It wasn't, but the pilot did date her, I might say that. She got me on that flight. But because I commented on her earrings and talked about her haircut and how pretty she, tell people they look good. It makes such a difference. I mean, they might not look, like a movie star, but they look good. People need to hear compliments.
Yeah, they do.
And you need, you need hugs too. You need 3 hugs today just to keep from being weird, but you don't get hugs unless you give them. And when you give a hug, it's heart to heart, left to left when you hug somebody. But babies actually die of a disease called marasma if they're not touched and cuddled as infants. I had a woman on my show once that was a volunteer in the Japanese orphanages, and she said, Ree, we had food, they were clean, but we didn't have enough staff to hold the babies, and they were dying like flies. She said it was awful. So it's important to be, I think, touchy. People need touch. The human touch is very powerful. Yeah. But to say something nice to somebody, it's amazing what it does. A waitress will come over to me, and I'll say, you are so pretty. And I said, of course, you've never been ugly, so you don't know how to appreciate being pretty unless you should start out ugly and then get like this. The difference in the service that I get from somebody like that, anybody can do this.
Right.
I mean, and it's a habit that I've gotten into, and and by the way, I call 3 people every day. I'm probably about 3,000 names behind right now, but try to call people that I went to school with when I was just a little girl, or somebody from church, or, just calling people and just say, how you doing? People love the attention of hearing from somebody. And we all can do this. It's free. You can do it,
And now in this world, Rita, that we're dealing with so much,
Yeah.
right? People, depression, anxiety, addictions, suicide, so much happening.
Yeah.
And
Sad.
I think when you talk to, I talk to a lot of young adults, right? And the things they tell me is scary to me.
Yeah.
That they feel like they're coming into this world in a very disruptive space, a lot of pressure. They're feeling very lonely, very distanced from each other.
Yeah.
And I think now more than ever, your words of reaching out to people, talking to people, being kind, noticing them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, saying something positive. And this technology world that we're in, it's not healthy. I mean, we do learn a lot, and I know it's just going to get more and more. But to go out to a restaurant and see guests at a table, each one of them reading their phone, and not talking. You need the human interaction. It is the most powerful thing in your life.
Right.
It really is. My doctor at Mayo said to me something very interesting. You know the difference between God and a doctor? Or actually, I said God and a surgeon. God doesn't think he's a surgeon. But anyway, I always tell that, don't tell that before the surgery unless you just tell it to the nurses because they really like it. But, I find out that when you are interacting with people, but she said to me that, she said, Rita, I know you're very social. She said, keep up your social interaction. That is the number one thing for your brain. Now, when a doctor from Mayo tells you that it's most important to have the social interaction. Now, my husband is not as... I was Miss Congeniality in 3 beauty contests, which means I wasn't that pretty, I wasn't that talented, but I was sweet as heck, But conversation from my husband is clearing his throat. I mean, I guess that's the reason we've been married 57 years.
But here's the thing, because I've not come to know him very well. He has the driest sense of humor.
He does.
And when he says something, it's hysterical.
Yeah, he can come up with some funny stuff. I get some great material from him, but it's very different. I laugh about that because he says, you want to go out with people every night? And I said, yeah, because raised in a family, which there were only 3 of us, but 3 children, but families interact and talk, and they say the best way to learn, by the way, is when you're having interaction and talking over food, and that it helps retention. Now, this is all things that have been verified. So I like to compliment when I go into the waitress, and I tip. It drives my husband crazy. He is so tight with money that he unscrews his socks at night. I just have to tell you that. But not me, because to whom much is given, much is expected. And I truly love. In fact, I've tipped so much. One time, the hostess at the restaurant, that was at Vincent's, called and said, Rita, did you think you were paying for your dinner underneath the plate? And I said, no, heifer, that was a tip that I was leaving for the nice people that waited on us. But I do love to tip, and I know Mac Magruder, my dear friend, he out tips me everywhere we go. He doesn't go anywhere without leaving a big bill, and he has set that example. People around you set an example that raises the bar for all of us, and that's what's so important, to be around people that you respect, you look up to, and that have accomplishment in their life. And if you don't have that personally interaction, reading about these people and what that's the reason I talk about John Wayne and Roy Rogers, which was the first love of my life as a little girl, and all these people that I never thought I'd get to interview, Muhammad Ali and all these people. But you can experience it. And I'm still a reader. I have a huge library, and I love to read and love to share the books too. So do that.
Yeah, I've always known that about you, Rita, and you've taught me a lot about that, and the power of association that you have had, and remained so humble.
Well,
is really you've set that example for me.
Well,
right, you and Sharon Lecter, right, are 2 women who could be, all that in a bag of chips and tell everybody about it.
Oh, yeah.
But truly, just walk into a room with so much grace and so much humble and so much gratitude.
Yeah.
So many times you have said to me, I can't, I've been to your house several times, which, is, there's 18 bathrooms kind of thing.
You've only been to the guest house. I haven't taken you to the main house yet.
But you never fail to look around and say, I just can't even believe that this is my life. That this
I can't.
Is,
I wake up and I say, okay, God, what do you want me to do today to make a difference, not just make a living? Because you have given me so much. And to whom much is given, much is expected.
Right.
And I can never outgive God. But if I can just give as much as I can, when I can, to make a difference. Because I've got to explain to him someday, okay, I started out with nothing, and then I ended up living in a beautiful home and have a beautiful family. And I am so grateful. I have some steps to success, by the way.
Okay.
It starts with desire. And then you have to have an image of what success is, and then you have to have a goal. A goal is show my book, my CDs, Making Time, Making Money.
Yeah.
That has a lot.
When did you make these, Rita?
Oh, that made them at least 25 or 30 years ago.
Because, I don't know that anybody knows how to do the CD thing anymore.
I know.
But I remember getting this.
I know
Yeah.
they don't, but I have a lot of those in my office, by the way, if anybody needs any, because I teach goal setting, and then I teach the importance of making money.
Right.
And using your goals to make money and to be successful. But a goal is just a predetermined idea directed toward a desired result. But when you set a goal, you leave your comfort zone if you're really serious about it. And then expectation, what you expect, believe, and picture is what you get. No more, no less. And I want to raise people's expectation because it's powerful. My expectation was that I was going to have something someday, make something out of myself, be something that would raise the bar for other people's performance.
Right.
So that's what. And then have faith and belief. Faith's the opposite of fear. And you have not because you believe not. You don't believe you can. And your mind says, okay, we can't do that. That's what you're your mind is just programmed by what you say to yourself. Yep. Your self-talk is so important. That's the reason I talk a lot about self-talk and what to say. And then act on your ideas when you get an idea. And then learn to give. The more you give, the more you give, the more you get. I mean, as I said, you cannot give God. But the more you give, and if you can't give resources to people to help them financially, you can give encouragement, you can give feedback, you can be positive, you can be a person that makes somebody feel better by being around them. And then, so learn to give and then learn to receive. A lot of people don't become as successful as they could because they don't feel like they deserve it. Yeah. They say, oh no, I couldn't ever. No, learn to receive good that comes your way. And then the number one mental step, as I've said already over and over again, adjustment for prosperity is gratitude. Be grateful constantly for the things that you have and acknowledge it. Talk your self-talk. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for your friendship. I mean, you're precious to me. And just look at the things that we take for granted, that what if we didn't have them anymore? So I think just being grateful and being conscious of that is important too.
I'm so glad you went through that list.
I carry that with me. And Irma Bombeck was a dear friend of mine, and I talk about gratitude a lot. She was a neighbor of mine. I lived about $8 million down from her house, but she was still my neighbor. And such a hoot. She gave me a baby shower when I was pregnant with my first son, Michael. When I get to her house, every guest, including her mother, had a pillow stuffed underneath their dresses so they would look pregnant too. But Irma, she taught me so much by her example. And it was in the newspaper that she had gotten a $14 million advance. Now, I've gotten advances on books, but nothing like that. And I said, Irma, I called her and I said, what is that like, getting a $14 million advance? She was the number one syndicator in the country, by the way. Best-selling author, so many books, I guess over 30. I have most of them. And, such accomplishment. Regular on the Day Show, Good Morning America. She used to come on my show, too, a lot, and she was a hoot. It was so fun. I said, Irma, how does it feel to get a $14 million advance? You haven't even written a book yet. And she said, well, Rita, I'd rather have a kidney. She was on dialysis. And so all of you listening right now, if you've got a kidney that's operational, put your hand back here. That's worth $14 million to somebody. You got two, that's $28 million. So you watched this today and you just got $28 million bonus. So gratitude's important.
What I love about everything you talk about, Rita, and probably why, I totally manifested you in my life. Because
good. Somebody did.
Because when I was 28 and I sat down to write out what I wanted my life to look like.
The 28th year in a woman's life is the most important year of your life for success. Part of your brain goes together that it hasn't before. It takes men a little bit longer, about 10 more years. But for a woman, I'm just kidding. But 28, when you said 28, that's a life-changing year. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping 62 will be one of those years too. But I sat down and wrote out a vision of what I wanted my life to look like because I was not doing the 9-to-5 gig very well.
And so I wrote out that someday I wanted to be working from home, especially when we were starting our family.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'd never heard of Arbonne at this point, but I wrote out, it'd kind of be fun to be with a company that's maybe in skincare or health and wellness, other women leaders. I could make residual income, earn some trips, right? Again, never heard of Arbonne at this point. And then on the last line of one of those pieces of paper, I wrote that someday I wanted to teach other people about the importance of vision and goal setting. No idea where that came from. Well, fast forward 2 years later, I'd had my son, 5 months pregnant, and you and the founder, Petter, came to Denver, and probably in a room full of 30 people, cast the vision of where the company was going. And I was like, I knew it. This exactly, it would checked all the boxes, right? And so you have been such a major force in my life.
Well, I'm glad, and I got that idea because network marketing, direct sales was my way to help other people. My sister didn't even have a ninth grade education, Carey, and I knew that if I could get her into a direct sales company, it only cost $50 to join, that she could do very well, because it's always who you know. It's not just you, right. It's who you know. And, every whale knows a minnow, and every minnow knows a whale. And my sister's, I can't do this, I'm overweight, and I'm not attractive, I have space between my front teeth, and I wear big, thick glasses. I can't be in a skincare company or a health company or anything. I don't fit the image. I said, every whale knows a minnow, but you may be a whale in that direction or a minnow, but you know one. So she got into business and she became number one income earner. And they don't talk about the incomes, but it was huge incomes. But it's who you know. And that's the reason you keep up social contact. You interact, you're friendly to people, you introduce yourself, you give people hugs. And that may not be your personality, but act as if. You can fake it. You can fake it, and you can fake it about when you're around people that aren't that nice and everything. I'm even nicer to them because they're messed up. When somebody's not nice to me, I think bless your heart. You say bless your heart a lot in the South, by the way. And when people ask me where I'm from, I always say Boston. And they say, Boston? I say, yes, South Boston. But I have to get over a lot of having a Southern accent because people, they don't think you're that smart if you got a Southern accent. And then you can get away with a lot then if they don't think you're that smart. So.
Well, and you're one of the most intelligent women I know.
Well, bless your heart. You don't know many then. God. But yeah. I never passed my SATs because I would have a panic attack when I would take them. But I became an exchange student by going to night school, and I didn't have to pass my SATs. But I graduated with honors, and I was a distinguished alumni, and my teacher and counselor came when I got the award as a distinguished alumni. And so when somebody tells you you can't, let that motivate you. Yeah. I'll show you what I can do. Yeah. You don't make that decision.
And I've always found, Rita, that if I'm feeling, you said earlier about goal setting a goal that gets you out of your comfort zone, right? It scares you a little bit.
Yeah.
I live that way every day. And I think people need to hear that if you're feeling fear, it's not that you're about to do something wrong. It's usually that about you're about to do something really big.
Yeah.
And I've learned just to embrace that.
Fear is false evidence appearing real. And a lot of times we get messed with, and you have to stand up and say, no, you don't tell me. I can do this. Stand back, just watch me. And we have failure. Carey, you learn more from failure than you do from success.
Yeah.
I had an idea. I did a cooking show called Cooking with Rita, and we had a huge following. So I approached my TV station, Channel 5, here in Phoenix, and and they were owned by Meredith Corporation, which owns Better Homes and Gardens, and I said, I have an idea to do a Food Network. Well, they listened to my accent. I guess they were wondering, she got teeth, Anyway, I thought, they're not paying attention to me, and I am loyal as an old dog. I wasn't about to go to another station and pitch this idea. But Jack Clifford at Channel 3 watched my cooking show every day. The staff there said, Rita, we thought he had a crush on you because you couldn't interrupt him when Cooking with Rita was on from another station. And he started the Food Network, and I teased him. I said, Jack, I wasn't making that much money, and there's a book called Seed Money in Action where you're supposed to give to your, D.O. Speller wrote it, your source of inspiration. And I said, you could have given me something for the idea of the Food Network because, Meredith Corporation just said no, they weren't interested. And I said, people eat 3 times a day. I said, they may have sex that much unless they're weird, newly married, or having an affair. I'm telling you, people want a Food Network. Well, they didn't pay attention to me. Jack Clifford started the Food Network, and he sold it, Carey, for $200 million. And we were both given a broadcasting award together, and I was teasing him. I said, yeah, you'd have gotten more than that if you'd have given me a percentage of what you got, because that would have made you get more. And he said, I should have given you something, Rita, because I sold the Food Network for $200 million. It's worth $3 billion today. Everything on television is about cooking.
Right.
And I knew that. And I had celebrity guests on. I had some famous people on that would come in and do cooking segments, and I had a live audience. And I knew, but when somebody says no to you, flip no around and say on to the next person. Because I should have gone and could have and would have to another station, but I had been at Channel 5 for 15 years, and I just felt disloyal if I did that.
Yeah.
And that was my $3 billion mistake. $3 billion mistake.
Well, again, lesson learned, right?
Yeah.
It's not a mistake, just lesson learned. And you went on to greater things anyway.
Well, I did the second infomercial, and the reason I got to do that is that Ray Lindstrom started the infomercial world, and we'd worked together on some projects, and I let him pick up Dolly Parton at the airport. He was such a huge Dolly Parton fan. He said, how can I pay you back? I said, don't worry about it. He said, I got to pick her up, and she was in my car. Dolly, thank you. You've done so much for me as Jolene.
I need to get her on this show.
But people don't look at my green eyes. They look at my flat chest and say, bless your heart. It's so different. But he started the Food Network, and I got to do, Shad Ham started the first one. I got to do the second one. It's Time for You. And we were in 32 million homes.
Right.
Carey, we were selling back then, it was a long time ago, $1 million a day in product. I mean, because I let him pick up Dolly Parton at the airport. That was my claim to fame.
But this is, I think, the biggest lesson that you teach everybody, is that when you have a servant heart and you lead with love and just serve people, it comes back around abundantly. And that is, I think, out of all the lessons you've taught me, that is the biggest one. Saying
love you to people is so powerful. I got a call from the president, the owner of Greyhound Bus once, and he asked me about doing a speech, and I got ready to hang up. And John Teets is his name, by the way. He was an amazing man. I said, love you. Well, he called me back. He said, did you just say love you when I hung? I said, yeah, I say that all the time. He said, I'm going to book you for the speech. Nobody's ever said love you when they hung up the phone. So say love you a lot, too. That's important.
Well, that's your sign-off.
Yeah.
Love you. That, and I remember we used to have bracelets. What would Rita do?
Yeah, what would Rita say? What would Rita say?
Yeah.
Love you is very important. Yes, thank you. And I love you all. Thank you for having me here today. This
Rita,
is so much fun. Just to be with you is so much fun.
Can you all see why I call her Mama Rita? She's truly been the biggest force in my life.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very honored to hear that. Thank you.
We'll have you back.
All right.
We'll bring you a Sharon.
Okay, that'll be fun.
Well, thank you, everyone. This is Carey Conley from Moving Through and Beyond, and I am just here to remind you to keep looking up. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please share it with a friend or a family member. In order to be successful on this mission, I can't do it alone. Connect with me at www.careyconley.com. And don't forget to sign up for my weekly Do It On Purpose newsletter. Let's build this life-giving vision movement together to end this epidemic, save lives, and create purpose.